Hey guys, Kimmy Vapes here, back at you with another review. I've been away for a little bit on vacation, but I'm back now and I'm ready to tell you about the Drop Dead RDA, a collaboration between the Vapor Chronicles and Heathen. Let's have a vape, go down below and see what comes with the Drop Dead RDA. Okay, and here it is, the Drop Dead RDA, a collaboration between TVC and Heathen, two reviewers here on YouTube. I'll link to their channels down in the description, and manufactured by HellVape. And here we see the packaging is very similar to the Dead Rabbit and the Aquitas RDA, staying with the theme that HellVape has chose for their packaging. And then flipping it over here, you have all of your features, specifications, and your contents. And of course, it talks about it being a collaboration between Heathen and the Vapor Chronicles. Let's go ahead and open up the box. And the first thing you'll see here is that you receive a Drop Dead sticker, which is really cute. I don't think I've ever seen a sticker come with an RDA before, and I actually really like this design. And then you have the Drop Dead user manual, which if you open it up here, it has several languages. But let's just go to the English language, and you have a nice little note here from Brian, TVC, and Heathen, Billy. So gives you a little information, kind of a little personal thank you for buying their product. And then of course you have lots of pictures here explaining how to use the RDA. Set that aside, you'll see you have the Drop Dead RDA. The color that I received is purple. And then you also have a little box here. Inside the little box, you're going to have all of your accessories. So the first bag here that I've pulled out is going to be your spare frosted drip tip, which is an 810, a 510 drip tip adapter, your squonk pin, as well as Phillips head screws and spare O-rings. So you get your choice of flathead screws or Phillips head screws with this RDA. In the second box is going to be your tools. You're going to have a flat-headed screwdriver, a Phillips-headed screwdriver, and an Allen key. So here you see on one side is the Drop Dead logo, which is the rabbit, as well as two D's behind it. And then on the other side, it is blank. You have top side airflow, which is a series of 7 holes on 2 rows. So you have a total of 14 airflow holes. And this is dual-sided airflow, no single coil option as far as airflow. So whatever you adjust on one side, it will do to the other side. Here you have a nice knurled top cap so that you can close off your airflow, and it's going to come from the side, and it's going to close off both the top and bottom row 1 hole at a time. So you have 2 holes closed off, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14 if you want to completely close it off. If, like, say for example, you're storing it in your pocket or your purse and you don't want e-liquid to leak out the airflow holes. The drip tip that comes installed on the RDA is going to be a color which matches the RDA. So for example, mine is purple. The 810 drip tip, of course, the inside is 810 drip tip compatible. You have an O-ring down there. But what's unique about this drip tip is that HellVape has done a little bit of branding there. They included this little metal ring, which is removable. If you don't like the HellVape branding, you can actually remove that metal ring. However, just note that that is going to make the length of the stem much longer on your drip tip. Okay, so real quick, we're just going to do some comparisons between the Dead Rabbit, the Drop, and of course the Drop Dead. So here we have the pearl white Dead Rabbit, which you immediately can see where it's very similar to the Dead Rabbit is of course that style. You have the rabbit logo and you have that nice crosshatch knurling at the top. And of course the airflow is set up higher, much like the Dead Rabbit. But instead of an open slot design, you have those 2 rows of 7 holes. And then grabbing the drop cap, where you'll see similarities, of course, is going to be in this design at the bottom of the Drop Dead. which appears to be a notch for the deck. However, this is just a design and not actually a notch in the barrel. It does still serve a purpose, which we'll get into when we take off the cap. Taking off the top cap here, now we can see the deck. Looking inside real quick, we'll show there is a nice conical shape to the inside, and if we go ahead and pop out that airflow control, so here's another way in which it's very similar to the Dead Rabbit. Looking at the airflow control cap here, the cutout for the airflow control is actually angled or sloped downward a little bit. And the idea behind that is that this is going to direct that top line of airflow down towards your coil, but still allow you to purge the RDA without the airflow hitting your cheeks, which was a big issue with the original Dead Rabbit. Here is where you can see the barrel, as I was saying there, that is just a design, kind of a nod to the drop RDA, but still serves a purpose because on the deck here, you will see that there are two little bump outs on the deck that are milled in, and those coincide with a notch which is cut on the inner side of the barrel and actually has quite a large track cut down into the barrel. And what that allows you to do is use the notch, and if you look at where the notch is included on the outside of the barrel and line that up with those notches, it'll slide right down and pop into place. But because of the track that is cut into that notch, it actually allows you some room. You actually get about 8 millimeters of a turn on that track. And what that allows you to do is, as you close off your airflow, if I want to go ahead and close off 4 airflow holes, that's going to cut off the airflow to half of my coil. But because of that track, what I can do is go ahead and position my RDA and change the section so as that the airflow holes are still lined up with the center of my coil. So that is something that neither the drop RDA or the Dead Rabbit has, that's unique to the drop dead RDA. So let's go back to look at the deck. So of course it looks very similar to the drop RDA deck, and we'll get those two decks here, both the drop RDA deck and the Dead Rabbit deck here. So looking at the drop dead deck, you can see that the posts are shaped similarly to the drop RDA. You have your 4 posts, one side being positive, the other side being your negative. The drop RDA has both gold-plated positive and negative posts, to where the drop dead looks more like the Dead Rabbit, and that the negative is stainless steel and the positive is gold-plated. And that's about where it stops as far as looking like the Dead Rabbit RDA. So as you can see, the post hole sizes have changed, as well as the height of the posts has changed. The height of these posts are a little bit shorter, and also something that has been changed is that there is no sled at the bottom of those posts. Underneath your holes, it goes straight down into the deck, where with the original drop you had those little ramps. And the way that Heathen explained in the collab video that him and Brian released, talking about the drop dead and what went behind building it, is this allows more room for you to tuck your cotton up underneath those posts should you want to do that. Still though, very easily accessible to cut your leads from the bottom. You can put your coils in from the top, from the bottom. You can actually, even if you want to, do one large coil in the center or one vertical coil in the center. One of the biggest things that was loved so much about the drop and the Dead Rabbit was the versatility and the many ways that you could build on these drop-in style decks. And same goes for this deck. dual O-rings at the bottom. Really good tension on the RDA for the bottom O-rings. Very easy to put the cap on as well as remove the cap, but enough tension that there's no chance of your top cap coming off if you grab it by the barrel. On the top, on the O-rings, same thing, very easy, not so loose that you lose position of your airflow, but just tight enough that you can move it easily without it sticking on you. So let's go ahead and throw a build in. Coils that I'll be using are the Coilology multi-strand fused Clapton stainless steel, and these are 3mm diameter, and these coils have really long legs, so I'm going to go ahead and just pre-cut the legs a little bit. So I've tried several builds in this RDA, and what I find is I like my coils to be quite high and positioned right over top of the posts. I don't bend them in as much as I did with the original drop RDA. So here I'm just lining up to see where my coils will sit with the airflow, and I can see that my coils are just a little bit too high for where I want them. I'll risk them possibly touching the top cap, so I'm going to go ahead and lower them just a little bit. Okay, so now I have my coils positioned how I want them, just slightly tilted in just a little bit past those posts towards the center. As you see here, I have them sitting quite high, which is the way that I like it. I like to make sure that that bottom row of airflow holes is going to be hitting the bottom half of my coil, and then the top airflow hole is going to be hitting the top of my coils, and of course because it's angled down, it'll be kind of hitting those coils at an angle downward. So now, of course, since I lowered my coils a little bit, I have some extra leg length down there, and I'll go ahead and snip that off. And I can just put my snips in there right underneath and clip those leads. Make sure when you're clipping the leads that you make sure that all your leads make sure to count your leads and make sure that there are none left in the bottom of that deck. Alright, so I have my coils positioned where I want them, my leads snipped. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this down on a mod and pulse my coils. Okay, so I've got my coils glowing evenly. Now it's time to wick them up. I'm going to be using the Cotton Threads wicks. And just like with the drop RDA, which has really long wicks, I just want to make sure that my wicks are resting on the bottom of the juice well. Just touching the bottom of the juice well so that they're always able to absorb any e-liquid that may be sitting in the bottom. The e-liquid that I'm going to be vaping with this today is good. I have no idea what the name of the e-liquid company is that makes this. I picked it up in the Atlanta Vape Expo. This is a bakery flavor. It almost tastes to me like maybe it's a Cinnabon e-liquid, but barely any cinnamon, but a really nice, yummy, sweet bakery, and the name of it is Good. So just like with the Dead Rabbit, this does not have a tremendously deep juice well. It's actually a bit deeper than the original Dead Rabbit. You'll see here that there's a little more juice well than the Dead Rabbit. However, because just like with the Dead Rabbit, the top cap has all of this space that once you've put your top cap on, you can actually, of course, go ahead and fill it up much deeper. So once my top cap is in place, I can go ahead and just squirt a lot of e-liquid down there on my coils and on my wicks. And I don't have to worry about it leaking because the airflow is set here at the top side. When looking through the airflow, my coil runs right here, kind of right at this bottom airflow line, I can see my coil, and the top airflow line just hits the top of my coil, though because it is angled down, it's gonna hit more of the top center of my coil, and that's how I like it. And again, looking down into the RDA, you can see there's quite a bit of space between my coils. So that is the Drop Dead RDA. Let's go back up top, have a vape on it, and I'll give you my thoughts and opinions. All right, that was an up-close look at the Drop Dead RDA by the Vapor Chronicles and Heathen. So what are my thoughts? Well, let's get right into the pros. First things I have to comment on is this purple. This is a beautiful color of purple in my opinion. It's one of the very few RDAs I've seen with this color of purple, and to me it's a true purple color, and this was done through electroplating. So the color on this RDA was done through electroplating, and that's something that I've never seen a company do before. And I thought it was really great, and I'm really, really happy with the color of this purple and how it matches up with my Minikin V2, which you guys know is one of my favorite mods. So the next pro I have is more of a generalized pro, and that is the machining and the quality of the RDA. Everything on this is very nice. The tolerances on the O-rings, the post screws, everything was threaded really nice and really smooth. The next pro is going to be the accessories. The fact that you get multiple drip tip options, and look at this drip tip. Another big pro is the color match drip tips that they did for all 8 colors of the RDA that they're doing. I think is really great, really beautiful, and for people that really like to do the matchy, I think it's really beautiful. Additionally, you also get both flathead and Phillips screws, so if you're not a fan of flathead, you can put the Phillips screw heads in there, and vice versa. The next pro, of course, I'm gonna have on this one is the drop-in style posts. While they are more to the drop RDA than they are the Dead Rabbit, I really am a big fan of the drop RDA and always love that drop-in style post. And the fact that Billy and Brian came together and they made some changes to the posts, which I think were changes to the better, made these drop-in style posts that much better. I really love the deck. I like that they got rid of the sled and gives more room for e-liquid and cotton. I think that it still works just as well as the original drop RDA post and gives you that extra space in the build deck for cotton or e-liquid, and I really like that. So while the Drop Dead may seem like Brian and Billy just took their 2 RDAs and smashed them together, that's not really the case. There's actually some really nice intuitive design to this that's neither on the Drop RDA or the Dead Rabbit RDA. One of those things being the locking mechanism that they included on this RDA, which is a huge pro. The fact that not only does your top cap lock into the base, which allows you to keep your airflow centered and allows you to unscrew the atomizer from your device without it just spinning continuously, it also has this little track system cut into it where the notch slides in, and you have about 8 millimeters of playroom, so that not only can you adjust your airflow and remove the RDA from the device without it constantly spinning, but you can always keep your airflow aligned with your coil, which, as we know, the center point of the coil is the part of the coil that heats up first and heats up the hottest. The next pro, of course, is going to be the knurling on the top and really the design in general. While I am a huge fan of the Drop RDA, and I actually liked using the Drop RDA more than the original Dead Rabbit, I like the look of the appearance of the Drop Dead more than the Drop RDA. I feel like the Drop RDA really wasn't something that was more visually appealing. It was more all about the usability, the versatility, and the vape that you got off of the Drop RDA that made it so great than the looks of it, because the looks were quite plain. So with the Drop Dead, I really love that Billy kind of infuse this RDA with the design of the drop RDA. You have that really nice, super grabby knurling on the top cap, which makes the airflow really easy to adjust. So big pro on the look of the RDA. The design aesthetics on the outside are really beautiful in my opinion. The next pro is going to be the airflow. You have a lot of airflow options on this RDA, all the way from being wide open, no restriction, to cutting it down to being a really restricted direct lung inhale. So right now, my favorite position on this RDA is I have 6 holes cut off. So that leaves a total of 8 holes remaining. And that's the way that I like to vape on it for my style of vaping. It's a slightly restrictive direct lung, and I'll go ahead and let you hear that. Super smooth, really quiet airflow, and I find that that's the case no matter what position I have on it. So you took 2 really good RDAs with good airflow on their own right. The drop RDA and the Dead Rabbit both had good airflow, but I found that they both vaped very differently, and this is the same for the Drop Dead. The Drop Dead vapes very differently from the drop RDA and from the Dead Rabbit RDA. So I feel like the Drop Dead is smoother than the original Dead Rabbit RDA's airflow. You also have the ability, the way that they redesigned the airflow, that you can now purge the RDA without the vapor hitting your cheeks. It'll go straight out and maybe hit the person next to you, but no worries of when purging it coming up and hitting your cheeks. So that's a big pro from this RDA, is that you're able to purge on it. Next, of course, is going to be that you can squonk it and drip on it, and both are really easy, and you don't have to worry about leaking because of the top side airflow on it. You can really just flood your deck and it's not gonna leak. Now, when it comes to comparing flavor of the Drop Dead with the Drop RDA and the Dead Rabbit RDA, I will say I feel like this one gives me more flavor than the Dead Rabbit RDA, but not as much flavor as the Drop RDA. And I honestly feel like that's the case because the Drop RDA had that airflow that was positioned so low going between the posts that it comes directly underneath your coil and up. And that's why you get maybe more flavor on the Drop RDA than the Dead Rabbit. So who is this for? In my opinion, this RDA is for someone that either liked some of the aspects of the Drop RDA but preferred the Dead Rabbit, or vice versa. If you are a fan of the Drop RDA but you didn't like the visual aesthetics of the Drop RDA, this is something you might consider picking up because it has that same 4-post drop-in style design, but visually I feel like this is much prettier than the original Drop RDA. Vice versa, if you were a fan of the Dead Rabbit and you liked the visual aesthetics of the Dead Rabbit, but you wished it had the Drop RDA posts, maybe give this one a try. If you already have the Drop RDA, am I going to say go out and buy this one? Not really, honestly, unless you just visually really want the look of the Dead Rabbit on a Drop RDA type build deck. I get good flavor from it, but I still find myself getting better flavor from the Drop RDA. Vice versa, one thing you can do with the Drop Dead that you can't do with the Drop RDA is that because that airflow is positioned so high up, you can really flood this build deck with e-liquid when you're dripping, and you're not going to leak. So there's a lot of give and take in them, and it's really hard to say, yes, go buy this one over this one. It's more of, I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Overall, I think this is a great RDA. If you're a fan of Brian or you're a fan of Heathen and you really want to support them, or you're collecting reviewer RDAs, you won't be disappointed with this one by any means. So really great job, Brian. Really great job, Heathen. It's so nice to see two reviewers come together and design something together that is so good of a vape. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, click that subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, don't forget to hit the little bell icon so you get notified the next time I upload a video. Thanks again, you guys. Bye-bye.